I could say excellence, excellency, excellency, excellency instead of good, 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 good. Props. Now, hello to what is that other discussion today that seeks those type of, I don't know, that part. Those things, I would say, I probably am not aware of those type of things, but it seems obvious, but it's really not. And when I speak of not, oftentimes when it bascules, it really is not. So oftentimes, so I would catch that in Parika Parika. And lots of super knobs entrance. Now, when it talks about quantity, it deals probably with to determine this type of megahertz position when it talks about quantity. So, in other words, it takes the compass away and puts that equally. And oftentimes, the way that megahertz hits would be how the waves pelts at the child. Now, does it need a lot of years to get to that perfection of how it balances the child? Correct. So if she started at just around 50, but it took 50 years of getting that perfection. And when it gets to that perfection, she just flows as if she hears not. It just like pelts to her. And oftentimes it's pelts based on how it was stagnated. And oftentimes it does it this way not. It will do it and it gets that type of perfection with this type of clarity. And if she has a diving wave, then oftentimes whoever is close to the child and it hurts that has to really seek high bridge or seek high bridge, it pelts and it causes the girl to dive a bit of this dives and comes back. So oftentimes when she comes back, it pelt her to where she is actually not burdened, actually in that state. And that's what kind of charity, which is getting to super now and then heading down that lengthy road. So I would say lengthy road, which is this type of jeans road. And oftentimes it will start to do this now. Why, when you get to places like Anna Regina, we would know that shaky story this way. So it will probably be the fault of Ibiza, the death of those twins of Charity. And now when that happens and she has those type of echoes, which is those type of diving echoes, it's quite bad, but quite this way after. So the mom starts to get jittery here, and then it demands rest, and then it demands whipping, and then it demands rising. So oftentimes it demands an hour of which to do these things, but oftentimes when I get to that type of that's the key. When I get to that key, which is almost like the panhandle, I guess when I do this, it's meaning that somebody is trying to see the child, and you're not allowed to do so. The mechanism is there, and it wipes these things out. And when it's not happening that way, then the girl had to get really deep into herself to figure out what is it that's causing her to have to seek these things, not to have to seek. And we would get it there, see these things, and that note would make you now It is a country that is quite trade, but oftentimes it doesn't reveal such complexity. Very simple. And this is caramel, not simple. So it demands to get busy. I just got this type of towel from the store. Why, it's kind of beyond a megahertz. It does this to the child, and this is probably saying ta-ta. And ta-ta means you cannot use and abuse and see ta-ta. It demands go to sleep, but I'm done. Now, when I get to my notes here, oftentimes I probably need to get it based on how I've done it. I shouldn't have been watching in the camera, so I'll do it this way-ish. And oftentimes I am not seeking double videos right now. So I would say let's get to this something of this here. Let me see if I can switch my way. Obviously, yes, I have discovered something quite naughty. Now it puts it that way, but I'm gonna stretch this to get it in a bit. Stretch it to get it there. Okay, we're dealing with what is the key, and oftentimes from Santa Rosa, from California, this bothered mom. The key, 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 until it gets saturated all over mom. That's why. And once it is, she has to go and find it. She probably did that to do it at the charity in Georgia. I am just going to put this on myself and go and find the key. And oftentimes, when I was still living in Crown Point, this type of vehicle here, which is this Elantra, I would say, oh, well, almost like who's trying to get to my bird? In other words, people were trying to megahertz her bird, and the bell flips out at that point. Now, the bell, if it's not leaving, then the girl has to accuse Guyana. It seems this way. This way, this would be megahertz to destroy. And when it is, that person who carries it have to leave Guyana immediately. In other words, she has to be a court in the United States. Now, there is people who are willing to help why this type of mechanism does it. Now, hopefully we're not seeking conviviality. Why the Italians sends the message that I don't want the bail. So you had to be somebody who was holding the child back. Once I got there, you seemed to be able to tell the world. So you were not able to tell the world, so the girl had to get to her key. Now, this type of situation would have these type of heart hit, tremble, a capsule, and this capsule would be a MG type of situation with things of these continues, and it never stops in order to get to the universe. That's why. In other words, once this type of titanium starts leaking out of the child, it's fatal. Now, how? Well, the person could dispute it, but it continues. So it's realizing the way the suits has to be very titanium against the child. Now, it continues this part really well. Now, somebody was waiting for this part, a shake, and it was placed into somebody in California, and contacted that person, and this person is a guilty person. So it pronounces it guilty, but it concerns the entire country because of this shake. Is the shake brings it to the country. And once it does it this way, oftentimes the girl is on a mission to discover the key. In other words, it concerns how do I communicate with my kids, my daughter, without actually being there yet. These are a plum. This will be. And not being able to see her in fear, it's this way. So it would say that has no contradictions, but it does, because if the nose is widened this way, then there's a problem. If you're seeking to see the nose, then they will have to put you away. They're suspecting you cannot seek the privacy of man. It's like seeking the vagina. Now perhaps this wants those things, so in order to want it, you have to be birthed. That's the way it seems. So it will get back to this key. In other words, this part of the key, mostly something of somebody destroyed. For example, the girl's granddaughter cannot imagine. These things could have been megahertz out this way, and a determining position where wave hits. I could get it. For example, it waves frequencies in this part here, and it leads to waves begin in this part, Charity. Now it could have done with a dive with this type of this part here. It pulls that out, and then it could have been with the key officially. So once these things are done, we move along. So this is quite important because the girl has she probably saw her granddaughter 2 times since she was born. Can I imagine? I don't think she's 5 yet, but perhaps she is 5. But I know she's this type of birth. So this type of place, it disturbs. It disturbs because of this here. Cannot imagine. And when it does this way and man is seeking friendship, this type of this handle will go berserk as to where is it, and we're just getting the key part. Now once man seeks those things, you're seeking to kill the lady and her family as one. In other words, this is what the key is doing, and if that person targeted, it becomes crucial to stop. Now when it does this way, she has all her noses, and this type of knots leads to videos, this finding out where the bijou stole in that same person, this type of bijou. We're taking a belly of somebody that was known to this grandma. Belly was delivered perhaps with this type of slang. And then we're dealing with things of coca, which accoys the forges of this type of ancestor, descendant. We're dealing with a crescendo loon who could have appeared over Wellberry and wasn't efficient, and deals with things of waves, ATP, and accusing us of spikes of insulins and sugar. And then dealing with things of certain wheel ketchup, where it really demars this type of, person. So I probably could have, but if it disappeared off the planet, when it disturbs, it disappears off the planet, and that will allow the family to know, yes, mom is extremely close, but extremely megahertz. And when it's extremely megahertz, it doesn't like for it to kind of wave all that way. In other words, it demands the completion of this project, and this is why mom sends these videos. Now, when the mom has this type of legal contact, these things have to move forward. The bars, obviously in Alabama, financially speaking, I cannot just get up and go, perhaps, but I have to take in account that there was a megahertz that pelted, like something of this here, and something of this would pelt, and that's how it gets to apple that way, this type of crochet. And once those things are done, you have to recognize getting to those places, you have to have hotels. And mom is not keen on hotels. Why? She's experiencing a lot of these from the start. And the key sometimes watches her. Yes, no? These things do not watch. The key is always at the forefront and always choppy based on one type of this here. And so once that is done, finding it was necessary and communicating it is obviously necessary. When it concerns just the lady, I cannot be bothered. So it puts it this way, and mom would get. We know who we are now, the canvas, and oftentimes canvas appears to be quite important. Pop of this dynasty, and once mom gets it, then she could identify with the rest of what she has done. So once those things are, I have to move on and deal with it when that rescue time comes. Now, once I get to these, I kind of have these things like it's this based on this part. It probably is quite rainbow, and what it is, I'm getting these type of colors available to the child, like this type of pen here, my kind of cute little brush here, my kind of cuticle, my kind of Q-Tex nail polish, and these type of things going on. Therefore, I was able to get these things here. So part of the key could concern this, the gold light, with it's she's really that lady. This crown, the nose, which the color of rain could really represent the nose of the child. So once these things are done, I'm finding where something of a prophecy could lie with this type of things that were chopped up. I would find that and then put it together here. So I would find this type of paprika, which I stayed for a few months. Akoi is this of the mom, this part, this, and it gives her this amount from her dad. And these things are quite spooky, so it really demands quick, not these hesitations. Now, oftentimes I suspect this is where this lies. They're thinking, so the girls, and that's it. So in Parika, the charity, in Parika, she probably found this type of wave, this type of ATP, and this type of thing she could find easy. But there's a disc there, and that disc. So this would be where that type of thing is, and the girl would not go in. She just emphasized G. Sometimes this, the mom, and it cannot, it kind of puts her in a deja vu state of, I'm finding that there, and then it comes back and studies it. So oftentimes this type of coca, which is the dam, oftentimes there's it in charity that she had glimpsed that. So when there's that type of family, it seems to be quite smelly. And when it's smelly, it doesn't seem well. It's suspecting until charity and Georgina, you have to go past to get to charity. Now, if it takes that behind there, that type of river, then I would say we're crawling the Atlantic, but not yet the Atlantic. When it gets to the Atlantic, it is this and a course as well. So oftentimes the wave begins, it waves frequencies, And oftentimes this call begins there also. But I am close. So the girl would say the wheel is the reach, or the wheel. So something of this position here. Very interesting. And you have to kind of demar there. And the region, the key demands this type of news. In other words, it encompasses the campus when it's necessary. If it's not necessary, it doesn't encompass. Why? Because if people have to be stopped on 3 times when you get it, what you will do is put it with something of this person, and then get to this type of things, and then you'll figure out what's going on. So that's why a lot of times these things get dirty, and when it's inside, they're stored well. So it finds that this kind of country that was kind of have this type of wave finds Ibiza in charity often last. And when you're lost and you're so devastating, then that part of you, this part of you here, is telling this type of country that they want to kill them. And when they're wanting to kill them, the girl will find something interesting today. Something of this here. Now, if it had this type of tremor, then I guess the earth would push a little bit and cause this mom to react. And feels it because of this type of color. She feels it well. And oftentimes it seeks the lips, but the lips, this part here, kind of hides these things, this type of gold and light. And the prophecy hides these things. So it kind of comes in a way of, I know I never knew you, that type of way of speaking. I don't think France speaks that way. They're very cemetery though, and that's what mom wanted to show. You live practically at the cemetery, so the girl would live practically speaking about that's grandma she didn't know, and allow it to shake. Now, with that being said, when the girl gets back to something relate in video, I would say something of a compass is necessary. So she's kind of very close. It comes in a very this format, which is rope. Oftentimes it comes in this color lacking. It comes in a rainbow. So these are things that are kind of so you have to kind of get it on the compass. So once we get this rope and gets this triangle and senses the triangle, it kind of reassures and senses it. So once these things are done, the communication is able to be done with this part of us. And this part of us is not a toy, it seems. So it kind of puts it, I know you not, Shakespeare. So it puts what happened, perhaps, and eliminate these things. If it's young, then I guess it doesn't like full stones, perhaps. So this will go to the high courts because I cannot deal with that today, it seems. Now, when it comes to something of this here, which is what man seeks to chop in America based on the evils, everybody, it could have an impact this way, Pluto. So it allows this mom to be able to relate in videos. So if somebody sees that part, I guess it needed to be forfeited. Now, besides that, I get to that in terms of how I can visualize something of one of my kids. And I guess that's why those type of videos were taken away from mom, because people were peeping, and this type of triangle was going further and further from mom. And this part was demanding peace and lost everything. So I guess this part could kind of hide that way. Once those things were found, it will become shaky, but the girl probably have to get to her Lee. So it far away from getting to this MG. So the girl is still, it seems. So when the girl gets angry, yes, no, if it kind of kept me busy, I had to get to the library. Close, but not so close, because I have to tread along with my feet. Oftentimes my feet are quite naughty when I was a child, and oftentimes the people treaded on those things, and that's what sticks this small. So it doesn't like to deal with. Yay! I'm glad you know that. Now, once these things are done, it has to deal with this or this. So I don't do those things. Once you would seek. If you're seeking things that are naughty, I cannot talk about those. You have to sense that the degradation, the mom did this, and senses the presence, and then leaves me alone. So now it will deal with just with how do I relate that. If it's becoming confusing, well, I will continue in privacy as I practice this manière up. In other words, it's just a way of saying, based on what I am going through, am I able to get through to you? And when I meet you, it's not that disastrous. Or am I able to, I need to sleep. Or, this, and this. So those are the things I'm concerned now. I don't think getting into this is there to be boxing up or slapping up. Yay! Knowing that this part here was really trying to depict itself in Australia. So because of that, you're going to be hit really hard one day. Well, you seem to be quite strokey at the lips, and I don't understand why. So up and senses. The other demonstrations were quite seeking to communicate in this way, and could have waves that are evil in there. So an evil wave would be a nose. You could have an evil wave. So getting that type of odor seems to be going to, I don't know, du saumon or du sardine. So it's perhaps, and I don't think I want it. I know people used to have it, but you have no business being with those people. And once those things are done, you're sensing that those were the only way, and it doesn't seem feasible for humans, it seems. Now, getting back to this part here, so I would say we probably have secrecies based on this part of us. So if it senses that it goes through this, then the girl will do a canvas based on perhaps this part here should probably do a canvas, and oftentimes I don't know if this will be there. So it's to say when it likes to and it's not permitting so, then it kind of calms down when it's permitting so. So I would say perhaps the knots things when I'm seeing like this way, then if it's with this color, then the contradiction would lead me to something of perhaps like a prophecy type of situation, but has this there, and this would bounce to something of this, and I have to be here, lady. So it will probably deal with the key there. So it will sense where I take off in that conversation and how it will travel. Once it gets here, it has to go this way, come back this way, and go this way until it gets back here and retire for the night. And oftentimes it senses animosity, and when it senses, it becomes quite this, and nobody can change this. because once it is, I will only deal with it from this type of point of view. Why? It has something of a rouge, like a rouge here, that says, that's all, grandma, 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 this, grandma, don't, grandma. I would say grandma, damn. I would say grandma, damn. With accept, tolerate, the rest has to kind of go through as another channel in the future, in the rope, it seems. So the rope this way. So I'm wondering if it was that part that has to be had to be targeted there and hit Greece. So Greece would lose it in a minute. They're suspecting, so they probably seeks to crawl out. Now that's a problem with the dam. So she's no joke. Wyatt could say, I cannot see my mom because there's a droll situation with the triangle. So this, I am not there to accuse you yet. We have to deal with this country of birth and put them aside. Not it says that in this type of court of law, whatever the verdict remains, the verdict perhaps. So now the mom gets back there of how it naturally cleanses itself because of a depiction, but because of that the depiction, it could have caused the lady to lose this phone that she had right there, and this phone, that iPad, that thing, and that, by you accusing the lady this way. So if you accuse her this way and she doesn't know the grandmother based on this, let me go back here, based on X, so this X here, based on X, then there's a problem. You have to know that this could have been testing and couldn't. So they will send, so they have to deal with those. So this would be completely hidden from man based on the rest. Why? You're not accepting the child in your country. No, you are sensing that you beat women of this stature, Italy, you see, and use derogatory against them, and the girl cannot handle it. So these things had to be wiped out, and La France would be punishing there, you see. With that being said, I would say this, I would leave and leave. So when I get there, if it seeks to put it there for the understanding, then the understanding would only be this there, it seems, and the rest may go, so that I don't get angry. I've had it, I'm not sure. Well, I am not sensitive to the separation from my Lord so long. It has been a very long journey. This mom could not have imagined that based on this here. It becomes complex, complicated beyond natural understanding, and knowing that she likes to know these details, but I would not get into this there at all. And that's it. Back to my Lee. Okay, I probably have to have a little bit of breakfast, and then